The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
When the static of life fills your brain and the world seems a little too insane, just twist that dial, don't hesitate. There's a haven where good vibes await. Tune in and Take 12 for some joy and cheer. It's the sound of hope coming in crystal clear. Recovery talk, the music so grand, a beacon of light, a helping hand.
Well, greetings one and all, and welcome to another fine episode of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show with a special guest co-host, Mr. Jack.
Howdy, howdy.
He is with us today. The topic this week, Anonymity Misunderstood. And of course, we have a weekly whine where I complain about something I'm powerless over just because I can. The make-believe Take 12 Recovery Radio Orchestra, and more on this episode of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show.
For a sign to find, we'll play your heartstrings with a tender hum. Remind you you're not alone where you come from. Tune in and Take 12 for some joy and cheer. It's the sound of hope coming in crystal clear. Recovery talk and music so grand, a beacon of light, a helping hand.
Well, welcome aboard, one and all. We're glad that you've tuned in. The topic this week is Anonymity Misunderstood. Is it misunderstood? Yeah, I'm afraid it is. We're going to be talking about that. We got a lot of stuff to cover today. If you're watching on YouTube, there's our buddy Jack, our special co-host this week.
Howdy.
And he was with us last week. And let's see, next week, Jack, we're doing the best of. And the topic is, what are outside issues anyway? And it's from the best of Take 12 Recovery Radio, because I will be down in Oakland, California.
Hiding.
With the Salvation Army from San Francisco and the Salvation Army from Oakland, teaching a workshop on the steps with the Came to Believe recovery folks. I'll be teaching on step 2, steps 8, and step 9.
Awesome.
I'll be down there, and well, actually, I'll be traveling back on that Monday. So on next Monday. So we have a pre-recorded best of for you. But the following week, March 31st, the topic will be higher power, personal or private.
Both. It's both.
That should be interesting.
Yeah, it's both, brother.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see about that.
Attraction rather than promotion.
Yeah, we'll see about that. That's another topic all in itself as well. There's like endless topics, right?
Yes.
Just endless stuff. So there's Jack. Wave, Jack.
Hi.
There, Jack's waving. Yeah. So the special high-tech Lazy Susan camera. We're going to be looking at a piece from this book, The Language of the Heart, Bill W.'s Grapevine Writings from 1944 to 1970. Going to be reading out of the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions.
Ooh.
Yes. And this book, wonderful book called Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers. All three are AA conference approved literature. Now, I want to make something clear right off the bat before we even go any further.
Okay.
I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous.
Nope.
Understand that. I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't even claim membership in Alcoholics Anonymous on this broadcast. So you need to understand that, listeners, okay? What I do claim is a minimal amount of working knowledge of the literature. Very minimal. But we're going to be sharing some of that. All right. So you need to understand. And if you want to rewind this and listen to the disclaimer or just listen to what I'm going to tell you now, Take 12 Recovery Radio has no affiliation with any particular 12-step fellowship. So understand that. Okay.
Yes.
You will never hear me say on any of the episodes for the last 21 years what 12-step fellowship I am a member of. You may try to guess. You may be right. You may not be, but that's on you. So I just want to make that clear before we go any further. But before we do all that, I'm sure that we've got the...
Stop right there!
Yeah, there it is.
Because it's time for the Monty Man's Weekly Whine, where he whimpers and whines and complains about things he has no power over.
It's all right. You're safe now.
Want some cheese?
Yeah. I like cheese. Don't drink wine anymore.
Nope.
I don't know that I ever drank wine and had cheese and appreciated it like those who are connoisseurs of the art. I always, if I did, I may have started out that way, but left the cheese way behind, right?
Kind of have a little bit of filling inside there.
Yeah. Okay, before I go into my wine, I do want to say Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you, Monty.
Right,
Happy
yes.
St. Patty's Day to you too and all the listeners.
So, if you're watching on Facebook, since I own this shirt, this is a 5X.
Lordy.
Right. This is before I lost 65 pounds. But it was the only green thing I had, so I what do they call it? Overshirt?
Yes.
Like what you're wearing. You're wearing an overshirt. So I decided I'd wear that in my green Take 12 hat for St. Patty's Day. And somebody told me, said, what is that all about anyway, St. Patrick's Day? Well, I'm glad you asked. So this is not part of the wine. This is just a piece of information. St. Patrick was born in Roman Britain in the late 4th century and was kidnapped and taken to Ireland as a slave. He later escaped and returned to convert the Irish to Christianity. St. Patrick's Day is a celebration annually on March 17th to honor the patron saint of Ireland. The day is marked by religious services and feasts in Ireland, while in other parts of the world, particularly in the United States, it is transformed into a secular celebration of Irish culture, featuring parades, Irish music, and traditional foods like corned beef and cabbage. And unfortunately, it's become another excuse for people to get really sloshed.
Yes.
Which leads me to a really cool thing. There is several clean and sober St. Patrick's Day parades that go on in the East Coast. Came to Believe Recovery, which I'm a part of, is doing one in New York today.
Awesome.
And it's a pretty big deal. So that's really cool. So there's the St. Patrick's Day thing. There you go. All right, where's my trash can? Okay. The weekly wine. Narrow parking lots. Probably can't do a whole lot about it. But I really, really, really do not like narrow parking lots. I'm a big guy, even with my weight down, and getting out of a car especially when people, and here's not the parking space so much as it is the knuckleheads that can't center their vehicle in the parking spot. They've got to be way over the line. So when I come in, I either have to do the same thing or I have to get out of my car from the passenger side.
Yes.
Which is not always easy to do.
No.
When you're a big fella.
Or getting older.
Older, right? Yeah. So come on, folks. Have a little love, please.
I have a huge F-350 long bed 4-door pickup truck.
So
when I park, I try to park dead center. But I have these little bitty cars like a Kia or a Prius that park as close as they can to me. It's like, guy, give me a break.
Why are they doing? Yeah, that's really annoying when it's a little car and they can't center it. Come on, you have all this room.
And I've got a foot and a half to try to get into my truck. It's like, come on, guys. I got a broken right wing as it is. So please, come on, guys.
I know. Have a little love. Come on, have a little compassion, everybody. All right. Well, yeah, there you go. You got anything to whine about?
Not so much wine, but here are 3 worthless facts from the
cool.
70s and 80s.
Worthless and mindless information from Jack.
The Walkman was invented in 1979.
Oh, the Walkman.
Yes. Here's another one. The first commercial video game console, the Magnavox Odyssey, was released in 1972.
Okay.
And the last one is Saturday Night Fever was released in 1977.
Oh, my gosh. I'm feeling a little bit old here.
Me too.
You know, there are people listening to this show that have no idea what a Walkman is.
I had one.
I did too.
Oh, Lord, that's a long
Clip,
time.
play, pause, clip.
Yeah, and run out of batteries.
Yeah, and you know, it was supposed to help you get a little exercise. You could take it with you as you walked.
And now what have you gone to? You've gone to the old cell phone and earbuds.
Yeah, cell phone and earbuds. Yeah, so there you go. All right, well, that does it for the weekly wine. Yippity-doo-dah.
It's all right. You're safe now.
We'll be back right after this. Don't go away.
This is Tom Williams
and Alicia Martinez, and we'd like to invite you to join us right here at Take12Radio.com for the Came to Believe Recovery podcast.
Topics will include a deep look into the how and why the 12-step movement was so successful in the past and how it can experience that success again today.
You can catch up on all our episodes at Take12Radio.com by clicking on the Came to Believe Recovery podcast banner.
This is Chris Schroeder. You are listening to Take12Radio.com. Recovery talk and positive music.
Yes, indeedy. Thank you, Chris. Chris does a lot of workshops with us. So go to Take12Radio.com and click on the Recovery Workshops banner, and you'll find them there. Walking through the Big Book, walking through the 12 and 12, and more recently, walking through the language of the heart. Okay, from an email, a fellow member in my home group is using his last name in meetings. What should we say to this person who is breaking the tradition of anonymity? Well, here's your answer. Yeah, knucklehead. AA co-founder Bill W. wrote in The Language of the Heart, the book that I shared with you a minute ago, right, on page 15, that, quote, it should be the privilege of each individual AA to cloak himself with as much personal anonymity as he desires. His fellow AA should respect his wishes and help guard whatever status he wants to assume, end quote. It is thus up to each individual to decide how anonymous he or she wishes to be at any level, that below the level, public level. Giving your last name in an AA meeting is not breaking AA tradition of anonymity. As a matter of fact, Dr. Bob said that personal anonymity has no place within the fellowship of AA.
Agreed.
Yeah. So there's that one. Okay. Next.
You recycle that stuff, right?
Right. So some things I want to share now. I wanted to share on this topic. I've shared on it before. It's been some time, Jack. I wanted to talk about it because there's a misunderstanding here that comes from being taught wrong.
Correct.
Well-meaning people who were taught wrong are teaching well-meaning people and teaching them wrong, and then they are in turn teaching other people wrong.
Correct. Because
they've been taught wrong. They don't know any better. So let's kind of clear the air here. So as a rule of thumb, if you want to know, when it comes to any organization, Rotary Club, Boy Scouts, AA, it doesn't matter. If you want to know the structure, the bylaws, the guidelines, whatever, read their material that's in print.
Yes.
Versus somebody's opinion. Okay, so let's start out with from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. This is on page 180. Tradition 11, our public relations policy. Now, I want you to hear me again. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. Yes. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. They are addressing the public relations policy, not the personal stories. It's the public relations policy that's based on attraction rather than promotion. Now, we use that quote, well, it's attraction rather than promotion, for a lot of things. That can be accurate, but in context, it's about the public relations policy of this particular fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous. You don't believe me? Read page 180 of 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. So let's get that out of the way. It's the public relations policy, not our personal stories. All right, moving on. I gave Jack a handout here. We got some stuff to cover. So, some points Bill W. made about anonymity in an essay he wrote for the AA Grapevine that was published in January 1946. This was just 3 months before the 12 Traditions as we know them today were published in the Grapevine under the title 12 Points to Assure Our Future. This essay is included in the book The Language of the Heart in the chapter titled A Tradition Born of Our Anonymity. Bill wrote, "We are beginning to feel that the word anonymous has for us an immense spiritual significance. Subtly but powerfully, it reminds us that we are always to place principles before personalities, that we have renounced personal glorification in public, that our movement not only preaches, but actually practices a truly humble modesty." Okay, so let's stop there for a minute.
Good.
The spiritual foundation of anonymity is not to hide our personal stories from each other or even from the public. It is to keep us humble so we aren't boastfully waving the flag of, look what a great guy I am because I was a mess and now I'm all better. You know.
Correct.
And so they wanted to be very careful about that. And for good reason. Now, the interesting thing that my buddy Chris S. Talks about, my mentor, often, he says, it's interesting to note that a lot of the celebrities out there who have actually broken their anonymity, and what we mean by that is that they have said, they have declared membership in AA or NA publicly, that many of them ended up relapsing. They got real boastful about it. And here's the thing about traditions. The fellowship of AA or even NA or some of these other programs doesn't really have to fine you or punish you or all that stuff for breaking a tradition. John Barleycorn, the bottle will get you.
Yes, it will.
It'll get you. If you start getting boastful and prideful and all that kind of stuff, nobody's going to have to, correct you.
You're going to be done by yourself.
It'll be all done by yourself, right? And we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen a million times. Bill goes on to note the references to anonymity in the foreword to the first edition in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. It is important that we remain anonymous because we are too few at present to handle the overwhelming number of personal appeals which may result from this publication. Being mostly businesses or professional folk, we could not well carry on our occupations in such an event. We would like it known that our alcoholic work is an avocation. Okay, what he's saying here is very interesting, Jack, because he's saying that if we let people know who we are to the point where they can get in touch with us, our first name, our last name, our phone numbers, our addresses, and all that kind of stuff, like the newspapers kind of want when they interview you, if we do that, the demand on us is going to be so intense, we're not going to be able to fulfill our responsibilities as husbands, as employees, and all that stuff. The thing that's wild here, Jack, and I'm going to put the camera on you because I want to see the look on your face when
thanks,
I tell
Monty.
you this. Okay.
I love you, brother.
Bill's talking about we have to be anonymous because we can't take the demand that's going to be on us with all the work that we have to do in our regular jobs. Here's the truth of the matter. Most of them had lost their jobs and weren't even working.
Very true. Very, very true.
So it's funny. Again, Bill, we love Bill. You know, Bill's a little bit of a mess sometimes, but he's God's mess.
He was an eccentric in so many ways.
Yeah. Well,
considering.
and he exaggerated somewhat. You know, it's like the first 100. Well, it's about 45 actually, but who doesn't, right? He talks about his law degree, which he never actually got. You know, stuff like that. But if you do a study on this guy, and the best way to do it is go to the book, The Language of the Heart, and read his articles. He was probably one of the most humble, genuine people that you'll ever know. But you've got to learn about him, not just the surface stuff that people, well, he was a shyster and all that kind of stuff.
But didn't it take him a long time before he got to that portion of being humble and filled with humility?
Well, and welcome to you and me.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so going on here, when writing or speaking publicly about alcoholism, we urge each of our fellowship to admit his personal name, designating himself instead as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Wow, really? Unbelievable. A lot of people do not know this. We urge each of the fellowship. So if you're going to speak publicly, don't use your name, but say you're a member of AA. Now, isn't that interesting?
Yes, it is. But what do you say when you speak in public? I say, hi, my name is Jack. I'm a alcoholic.
Right. That's what has been common, right? Because what we don't want to do is come across like we're representing Alcoholics Anonymous.
Correct.
Or Narcotics Anonymous, or whatever fellowship you're in.
Or that you are Alcoholics Anonymous itself.
Or that you are that. Yeah. So what we've done is we've switched it, and we've said our name, our first name, and not claimed membership. We've just said we're alcoholics, right? So people can understand that was our issue. It's interesting, though, that he says here, admit your name completely. Don't even use your first name. And so what they would do is if somebody wanted them to speak, they would say, good evening. I'm an alcoholic and I'm a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. But we wouldn't tell them their name at all, you know. Yeah, so I think it's a good call to go ahead because most people that ask you to speak know your first name.
True.
To just politely introduce yourself by your first name and you know,
I think there's a commonality that comes across too. You know, it drops down that wall that somebody can come and approach you instead of going, "Hey, you."
Yeah, right. Hey, you. Very earnestly, we ask the press also to observe this request, for otherwise we shall be greatly handicapped. I think it's important to note that right there in the foreword to the first edition, Bill didn't say that when writing or speaking publicly about A, we only use our first name. He urged that we admit our personal name altogether. Bill goes on to say that while the stigma of alcoholism has been somewhat lessened at this time of his essay, many individuals were still extremely sensitive about their connection with Alcoholics Anonymous, and that many were coming to AA under assumed names. At the other end of the scale, there were individuals who believed anonymity was childish nonsense and wanted to cry their membership in Alcoholics Anonymous from the housetops. I will add that people that do that, like I said, John Barleycorn usually gets them.
Yes.
Yeah. While most AA members believed in anonymity, Bill wrote, practice of the principle of anonymity varied a great deal. At this point in the essay, Bill poses a vital question. Just where shall we fix this point where personalities fade out and anonymity begins? And this is where we find the first hint of an actual written guideline for anonymity. Bill wrote, if I were asked to outline a tradition for anonymity, it might run as follows. It should be the privilege of each individual AA to cloak himself with as much personal anonymity as he desires. His fellow AA should respect his wishes and help guard whatever status he wants to assume. Okay, we read that earlier.
Yes.
Okay, so it's actually up to the individual member. Now, Alcoholics Anonymous, as does Narcotics Anonymous, asks that you do not say that you represent or claim membership publicly, but use your name all you want to.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, so, but it's the bottom line is it's really not up to the fellowship. It's up to you.
Exactly.
It's up to you. Okay.
I mean, how many times have you shared with somebody just through general conversation that you are a member, that you had a problem with drinking and they wanted to know how and why, because they had a family member, and through, direction up above, God direct this person in your life, and next thing you know, you're having a conversation with this person of what happened to where you're at right now and all the wonderful blessings that did happen in the process.
Yeah.
So
yeah, amen. Now, if I'm asked, it's been a while since I've done this, but there for a while I spoke at gatherings, lots of times churches. The first night I would do my testimony, I would share my story. The second night I would do Q&A, because a lot of people in the church, a lot of people in the community have questions about Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. Primarily they have questions about the 12 steps because they have a misunderstanding of them much of the time, especially the higher power issue and all that kind of thing. And so they'll ask questions, and so I'll give answers. But I don't give answers representing any particular 12-step fellowship. I give answers as understanding the literature as I've learned it.
Yes.
I know about literature of certain denominations. It doesn't make me a member. Right? Somebody say, well, you're representing. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you what the literature says. So don't accuse me of breaking a tradition because I'm helping to teach or share with you what I've learned. I'm just sharing my experience. But, until I actually say I represent and I am a member of, there's no anonymity break there whatsoever.
No, it's no anonymity break, and you're sharing your story. And you're not part of this cult that some people seem to think about AA or any other of these recovery groups, and you're not being indoctrinated either. So AA is not a cult. It's like anything else in life. You can make it what you want. And you can have a wonderful life, and
you can turn it into one, I suppose.
You could, and there are things that do happen in AA that shouldn't, but that's another story.
Oh my gosh! Well, there's things that happen in church that shouldn't. There's things that happen at Rotary Club that shouldn't.
Yes.
Boy Scouts. I mean, all sorts of things, right?
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily reflect the organization as a whole. It's made up of people. In Came to Believe Recovery, they have a slogan: "People are people-y."
Yeah, thank God for that.
Yeah, they really, really are. It's interesting, this whole cult thing, because if you look at the definition of cult in Webster's, you would be a little shocked. It's pretty much the dedication or worship of a point of origin, or it almost describes the typical church. You know what I mean?
Yes, it does.
So people need to back off and be careful when they use that word, when they're throwing it around. The truth is, people don't understand the stuff that they're reading or the language, or that's why it's kind of fun if you're going through literature in a 12-step fellowship to have a period dictionary. Because a lot of times the words mean things differently than they do today.
Yes. In the last 30, 40 years, there's many words that have changed completely of what they used to signify.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay, going on. Now, this comes from the book Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers. In case any of you out there are worried that it's conference approved. Yeah, it's conference approved. By the way, conference approved, one of the meanings of that is that it's approved to use in conferences. Okay? Just because, there's another thing that's misunderstood. Just because you are declared a registered AA meeting does not mean that you can't use other literature that is not conference approved in the meeting. It just means that every group is autonomous, And if they take a group conscience and they want to read something out of the One Day at a Time book, they are free to do that. It's not a break of any traditions or any of that kind of stuff. It does not have to be conference-approved literature in order to read it in a meeting. People have misunderstood that. I don't know where that came from. Now, it's probably a wise thing to take a group conscience on what literature you are going to read in the meeting, because you don't want any, weird stuff coming in there.
No.
But a group is free to do that. Okay, so this comes from Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers. As far as it says Anonymity and Dr. Bob on that page there, Jack.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about, we're going to quote Warren C. He was from the Cleveland Group. Now, the Cleveland Group, that was Clarence Snyder and Dr. Bob and those guys. Okay, it says, as far as anonymity was concerned, we knew who we were. It wasn't only AA, but our social life. All of our lives seemed to be spent together. We took people home with us to dry out. And people don't do that today. And in fact, they say, don't do that, right?
Exactly.
The Cleveland Group had the names, addresses, and phone numbers of all the members, said Warren. In fact, I remember Dr. Bob saying, quote, if I got up and gave my name as Dr. Bob S., people who needed help would have a hard time getting in touch with me, end quote.
Oh.
So when when that little phone number list goes around, regardless of the fellowship I'm meeting in, and I put my name down, I put Monty Meyer, and I put my phone number, because there are, as far as I know, there's 3 or 4 Monties in the Willamette Valley, and so I put Monty Meyer. A lot of people put their first name and last initial, and you know what? It's just because they were taught wrong. It's not their fault, or it's because that's what they want to do.
Or that's the level of anonymity.
That's the level that they want to have, and they have every right to do that.
And when you're sitting in a room, you see this list go around, and somebody puts their name on it, and you first go in there, you can remember, okay, that was a 4th person. And I remember when they spoke, that's the person I want to talk to.
Sure, you can do that. But it's up to you. Once again, it's up to you.
Yes.
It's up to you. I love what my mentor, Chris, says. An AA individual or an AA group has more right to break a tradition than AA has the right to punish you for doing so.
Exactly.
These things are written in Jell-O. Warren recalled.
Jell-O?
Yeah.
Pudding?
Well, traditions ought not be broken, but they must be flexible, because people are people-y. Come on. They got to be flexible, man.
Up to a certain point, because if you get too far out from where you started from, you lose the whole meaning of why it's a
Very
tradition.
true. You don't want to be so flexible that you completely move away from it.
Yes.
Warren recalled Dr. Bob, now listen really closely to this, listeners, said that there were two ways to break the anonymity tradition. Number 1, by giving your name at the public level of press or radio. Number 2, by being so anonymous that you can't be reached by other drunks. So if you're so anonymous that someone cannot reach you, that's an anonymity break.
Yes.
In the article in February 1969 Grapevine, Dr. Bob on Tradition 11, Volume 25, Issue 9, DS of San Mateo, California, wrote that Dr. Bob commented on the 11th tradition, and this is what he said. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films as follows. Since our tradition of anonymity designates the exact level where the line should be held, it must be obvious to anyone who can read and understand the English language. Poke, poke. He's poking the bear a little bit there. Hey, if you can understand the English language, you knucklehead, right, that to maintain anonymity at any other level is definitely a violation of this tradition. The AA who hides his identity from his fellow AAs by using only a given name violates the tradition just as much as the AA who permits his name to appear in press in connection with matters pertaining to AA. The former is maintaining his anonymity above the level of press, radio, and films, and the latter is maintaining his anonymity below the level of press, radio, and films. Whereas the tradition states that we should maintain our anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films.
But aren't they speaking about AA as a whole in itself when we go out and speak in public?
Well, he says the individual, the AA, the member who hides his identity from his fellow AAs by using only a given name violates that tradition. But let's go back.
Personal choice.
It's still his personal choice.
Yes.
It is still your personal choice.
Always.
Somebody scolds you for it, say thank you, I'll consider that. Don't be rude, but it's your choice, man. It may not be a wise choice, but it's still your choice. You know, a lot of this stuff, right, Jack? Yes. It really is a matter of
Here he comes.
yeah, it's a matter of wisdom, right? It's a matter of ethics. It's a matter of, and some people don't have those yet. So it's a matter of, let's consider before I speak. Let's know my audience. Let's, that kind of thing. And not everybody is going to do that in a polished manner. And we don't need to be pointing our bony finger in their face and scolding them when they don't do it exactly perfectly.
Well, I think also you have to consider when you're speaking in front of a large group of people, which could be at any AA meeting, that your personal anonymity comes along with your own personal safety. Because, granted, some of the folks that come into AA are not some of the most savory folks out there, and that's being honest.
Yeah, and we do have a mixture today that wasn't necessarily the case back then.
Exactly.
We have probably a lot more folks that are living with high anxiety issues, clinical depression, mental health issues.
Yes.
People that I would venture to say that in most, I would say many, but maybe most AA meetings, you're probably not going to find more pure alcoholics. You're probably going to find more people that are
dual addictions.
Yeah, you're going to find people that are dealing with multiple things today, whereas it may not have been the case back then so much.
But you're dealing with your own personal safety. But my home, just as yours, you're not going to invite somebody knowingly in there that's going to cause you or your family harm, or they're going to steal from you. I mean, this is a personal judgment call that I would like for you to be part of my life, but I'm going to keep you at a distance because I want to get to know who you are before I invite you into my home.
Sure.
So
absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I think that's with any organization. Hey, we're good friends. Yeah, why don't you have me come over? Well, I still want to know who you are.
Right. I have held off on having some guests in studio.
Yes.
I've had them on via the internet because, quite frankly, I don't know them well enough for them to know my location.
Nor do you want them to.
Nor do I want them to, at least not at this point.
Exactly.
The studio, the KHLT radio studio is not, in a public area where, you could pull up and you see the sign and all that kind of stuff. We did that at one time when we were on Shortridge Street. And it was like, I think
Time to change.
Time to change it. Okay. In this article, it goes on to say, the next page, Ernie G. of Toledo, commenting on what he saw to be an increase of anonymity within AA today as compared with the old days, said, I made a lead trip to bring the message over to Jackson, Michigan one night, and everybody's coming up to me saying, I'm Joe, I'm Pete. Then one of the guys said, safe journey home. If you get into trouble, give me a buzz.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah. Later, I said to the fellow who was with me, suppose we did get into trouble on the way home. How would we tell anyone in AA? We don't know anyone's last name. They get so doggone carried away with this anonymity that it gets to be a joke. I had a book, eventually one of the small address books compiled by early members or their wives, with the first 100 names, first and last telephone numbers, and where they lived. Dr. Bob's views on anonymity remain clear in the recollections of Akron's Joe P., the Dartmouth graduate. Though it was not the custom in the mid-1940s to give AA talks to anyone except drunks, Joe noted a few members formed an unofficial public information committee that started to speak to Rotary, Kiwanis clubs throughout the state. So it's interesting to me, Jack, that listen, whether it's NA, Celebrate Recovery, AA, any group that uses the 12 steps or adapts the 12 traditions to their fellowship, regardless of who they are, I think we should respect, if we're involved in that particular group, or we call that group our home group, whatever, we should respect the traditions and bylaws and guidelines and all that kind of thing. But it is interesting, and it's kind of fun to note that many folks claim that they are very concerned about their personal anonymity, and they don't want people knowing they're AA members or NA members, whatever. And yet they will stand outside of a meeting hall that is open to the public, people driving by all over the place, with a giant triangle up on the wall or the square or the CR or whatever it is at the smoke break, waving at the drivers, going, "Oh, there's my friend Jack," and they're standing out in front, with no thought about anybody, seeing them. So I wonder, are they really concerned about it, or are they just talking through their hat?
Talking through their hat, I think.
You spend too much time trying to make sense out of nonsense.
Yeah.
Nice cue.
However, for a person to argue that, and I've heard this too, so Fred over here says, I'm new to this thing. I really want to be careful who knows I'm coming here right now. Please respect my anonymity. And then some knucklehead says, well, you didn't care about your anonymity when you were shooting dope up in the Safeway parking lot. Come on, man, leave the guy alone. Whoa. And I've heard stuff like it. Yes. Well, you were drinking on my front lawn. You passed out. You didn't care about your anonymity then. Well, you know what? That was then when I was a knucklehead. I'm trying to change and improve my life. Please respect my choice for personal anonymity. Please respect that.
There's always a naysayer, especially when somebody's new in the program or trying to go through life and learn how to become sober, or they are becoming sober and they're starting to make some great achievements in their life. But there's always that somebody says, well, I don't think you're going to make it, or you're going to fail, or any number of things they come up with.
Chihuahua.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
Uh-oh, here he comes again.
Okay. What do you think about us? Closing thoughts from you before we go to our closing song.
Well, I think your own personal anonymity is that you share what you want to with whom you want to. And we must maintain somewhat. I mean, at work or in your personal life with people you might meet on the street, there comes that time where you're going to share, and they're going to want to know how you got there. They're going to want to know all the particulars. And if you omit lots of things, there's people are going to walk away going, what was that?
Yeah.
What was I supposed to learn there? But if you allow some guidance from up above and put these principles into actions and let your actions fall in line with your words, and let your words be part of your heart.
Ooh, that's good.
So that's my thoughts on
That's
that.
really, really good. I was just thinking, too, if you're part of a public information group and you've got a table out at the Recovery in the Park ceremony and it's got all your 12-step logos and you're sitting there, people are probably going to guess.
Yeah, kind of like what we do in the summertime, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we're gonna have a little bit of fun with this song. This is by by the way.
Uh-oh.
if you don't like what just happened, it's okay.
This too shall pass.
You don't have to. If whether you liked it or you didn't like it, please comment. If you're listening on a podcast where it lets you comment, we would appreciate your comments. If you're on YouTube, of course, you can comment there or on Podomatic. We would really appreciate it. If you love us, hate us, it doesn't matter. Listen, I saw a post on Facebook the other day. It said so many people on both sides, they were talking about the politics of the day. So many people on both sides of the fence are telling me who to hate. I have made a decision. I'm not going to hate anybody.
I might not like them, but...
Yeah, I'm not going to hate them. No. But if you do hate us, it's okay.
We love you anyway.
Let us know. Our email address is take12radio. That's using the number 12. Take12radio@comcast.net as well. Okay, our closing song is called How to Have a Good Time. It's by Michael Purrington and his recovery group, The Messengers. Here's Michael.
I was staring at the mirror back behind the bar, saying to myself, self, I don't know who you are. The bartender, he ignored me when I ordered a refill, probably 'cause I ran a tab and never paid the bill. I knew how to have a good time. I was on the road and in my prime, broke and drunk out of my mind. I knew how to have a good time. At a table in the corner sat a cowgirl barfly. I stumbled to the jukebox, winked at her, said hi. She took one look at me and then she headed for the door and swore she was giving up drinking as she threw up on the floor. I knew how to have a good time. I was on the road and in my prime, broke and drunk out of my mind. I knew how to have a good time. Thank God those days are gone. I'm sober and serene, but I get God awful grateful when I share these memories. I got a good life to live, and buddy, when I die, carve on my tombstone, he went home to heaven dry. Now I know how to have a good time. I'm on the road and in my prime, healthy, hopeful, feeling fine. I know how to have a good time. I know how to have a good time. Hey, I know how to have a good time.
Michael Purrington and his band, The Messengers. Special thank you to my special guest co-host, Jack. And let's see, Jack, you'll be back with me on the 31st for Higher Power, Personal or Private?
Should be, sir.
Okay, super. Wait a minute, we turned your mic off. What'd you say?
I said should be, sir.
There you go. So the folks will hold you to it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been really great having you on, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. All right, folks, don't miss, Wednesday's show, the Came to Believe Recovery podcast with our CEO, Tom Williams and Alicia Martinez. The topic will be train your brain. It's all about changing the way we think and how to train our brain in a new way of thinking. So then on Monday will be What Are Outside Issues Anyway from the Best of Take 12 Recovery Radio. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Jack and the rest of the Take 12 Recovery Radio family, and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
Don't let the weights of the past keep you down. There's a melody here to turn it around. In each story and song you'll find a friend, a chorus of courage that'll never end.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty.
This has been a Chicken and a Pig production.